This is Rockin' with Jam Man is with Ralph Sutton. First off, man, let me say how amazing it is to have you on my show. You are one of my inspirations for doing these interviews. You are one of
Are
my.
you serious, Jam Man? You're not
Yes.
being serious. Are you serious? Come on now. Someone told you to say that.
No, you are one of my inspirations. You are a pretty
Oh,
big guy.
wow. That's very, very nice of you. That warms my soul. That's very cool, dude.
Thank you. No, it's warming my soul that you're saying thank you. It's
That's
warming my.
wild. Well, thank you. I've been doing this a long time, since way before you were born.
Yeah, it says that you were doing this for 20 years. Yeah, definitely way older than me.
Definitely way older than you.
Yep. I hate being young.
You
So,
hate being young?
or is it going to be way worse being older?
No, well, I think that there's an expression called "youth is wasted on the young," right? And
Yeah.
it's because when you're young, you don't appreciate it, and when you're old, you wish you were young. It's kind of an interesting thing. You always want to be a different age, but I will say that I think the age that everyone's happiest is 21 to 23, because you are old enough to be taken seriously. You're old enough to drink. You're old enough to go out and party, but you haven't hit like a big 25 is big. Oh my God, I'm a quarter of a century years old, and it starts to freak you out because then I'm going to be 30 soon. So just remember, in 11 years, Ralph said 21 to 23 is the only time you're truly happy with your age.
Yeah, if you really think about it, you can get so old very quickly. Only 10 years, and I'm already 20. You know?
Right. Look at that. And you're over the hill at that point.
So what got you started doing interviews?
So actually, I used to. Ooh, I don't know what that was. I used to run rock clubs, right? And I was the guy that would MC the stage. You know, like we had to introduce a band or whatever like that. I did that for a very long time. And then I was also a DJ in nightclubs, and I would have to talk on the microphone and introduce stuff. And I had always wanted to do radio. And one day I was at a club, and another DJ came in. He was in radio. We started talking, and I got a job on a radio show on a radio station in Jersey when I was 29. So it was a little later already, and that's when I first started doing interviews with bands and stuff like that. It's something that I always had a passion for, music and like talking with people, but it was only at 29 did those worlds collide.
One thing I admire about you is that you have conversations with these rock stars. It's not like your basic interview, you point them in the right way, but it's just still people just talking.
Yeah, I really try that. It's funny. I'll tell you a story. I'm sure your father would appreciate this, and you will as well. I interviewed Ozzy Osbourne, right? So I was in a room with Ozzy, and the way they did it, because he was a little older, and he still is now, they gave us an hour, right? And the way they did it was 6 people, 10 minutes each, and you all stayed in the room, one after the other, talking to Ozzy, right? And they asked us all, okay, who wants to go first? Everybody else was terrified. I'm like, I don't care. I'll go first. I'll do it, right? And we have a very funny conversation. It just was a great, solid 10 minutes, right? The next guy comes in, and he's got his paper in hand, and he only going through question 1 to question 2. He's shaking his hand and nervous and not comfortable at all. And after like 3 or 4 minutes, Ozzy looks around and goes, can we bring the last guy back? Which was great. So I got endorsed by Ozzy Osbourne, so that made me feel good. I've always tried to say, go in prepared for an interview, but if the guest gives you a direction to go in, follow that path. Don't stick to your plan.
Okay, let me tell you this, okay? I'm basically what you just said, that everybody was else terrified. Okay, let's talk about the things. So I went into these Q&As so I can talk to some other big people, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody was like really like, they paid $100 to talk to this, and everybody was like really like they were asking really weird questions, and it was pretty. And then I just like went in. They had to cut me off because I was asking too many questions.
That's great. That's fantastic. I'm telling you that it is a lost art. Especially nowadays that younger people are not used to face-to-face conversation. They talk online. They talk through social media. They don't actually engage in face-to-face conversation. It's becoming a lost art. So it's great that you feel that way, that you want to have conversations and not questions and answers.
The thing about an interview that I'm just going to say this, the thing that about an interview, it's not just about just like asking all these things. It's just about talking and having a great time.
Right.
That's
I
what
agree. And I
is.
totally agree.
And you know,
One
some
thing that's
people have
funny
a
is
time.
sometimes I'll go into an because I do a ton of research. I'll do 7-8 hours of research for every person that comes on, right? And sometimes it stinks because the person cancels, and then I have 8 hours of knowledge that I'm never going to use. But that happens only once in a while, thank God. But you go in prepared, but you may never get to that stuff. It's okay to just talk. Like I remember once a guy just I forget it was there's a band Danzig, right? And Glenn Danzig, who's also in the Misfits, he brought up comic books, and I happened to, as a kid, loved comic books. The entire interview was about the X-Men and about the Fantastic Four. We never got to the music, but then he invited me to the show, gave me backstage passes, and we hung out that whole night. It would not have happened if we just would have stuck to Q&A.
Wow. You know, that's what talking leads you to.
Yeah, exactly. I got although you're too young to do this, I got drunk with Lemmy from Motorhead during an interview because he wanted Maker's Mark alcohol, which is a whiskey, I believe. And I said, well, if you're going to have a shot, I have to have a shot with you. And then we just sat in the DJ booth doing shot for shot. And then he invited me to the show that night because I was like someone just hanging with him.
Just gonna let you know. Don't worry. If I can drink some Pepsi, don't worry. I might act it. Don't you worry. I drink some apple juice.
That sugar's going to get you?
Yeah, that sugar's going to get me, you know, just a little.
Little loose?
Yeah, you know, it's gonna give me a little. Oof.
How long have you been into rock and roll? What got you into it?
I actually started it when I just was born. My parents and my grandparents actually took me to concerts when I was like a baby, actually. So
wow.
That's how I literally am, you could say, a child of rock and
That's
the child
awesome.
of the prophecy of rock.
Good kudos to your parents for doing it right.
Thank you. Man, yeah, it was actually pretty fun because I get to get told all these stories, and I also get a lot of great memories sometimes.
On this show that you've been doing about a year, is there a specific guest that stands out as your, oh my God, I can't believe I got to talk to him guest? I mean, other than me, obviously.
Bumblefoot. He was actually like almost one of my first interviews. He was actually
great.
So
yeah, Ron is a great guy. He's a really good dude.
Yeah, he got me really good. He got me like, I think he was actually the first blabbermouth I got. I think I have it 20 times, and I also have been featured nationally 12 times. Nationally.
Wow, good for you. Your show's getting more press than mine is.
What? Yeah. I didn't know it was that big. I thought it was just like still a little fry. I'm bigger than all the big fries. What is this? I have to ask, do you have any tips for me?
Well, first of all, I would say you're starting right. You know, it's great that you're doing this, and I think that the world needs more rock and roll kids in it, so I think that's great. I also think it's great that you're doing research and you're coming in with questions prepared. Hard to say. What I would say is I would get a mic closer to your face. It's a little echoey.
Okay, all right.
That's my one thing. You have a. I would get a. See how luxurious I sound with this mic right in front of my face.
Yes.
I would say get a good mic. The number one thing that people complain about when it comes to podcasts is audio quality.
And then also, I really like sound for some reason, the talking and that kind of microphone. It just for some reason it sounds calming to me. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna get a mic like that.
Because you have flat walls next to you. See here, I have this like soundproofing stuff. It's a sound absorption panel. It reduces echo. So yours has not only not a mic in front of you, but the flat walls. Sound loves flat, so it echoes. So there's a slight echo in your room. But if you had a mic like this that is unidirectional, you would really cut down the echo.
Okay.
That's my tip.
Okay, good. Thank you for the good tip. Have you ever had a guest on the show that you really did not get along with?
Well, I'll tell you a great story. This is in my old radio show days. There's a great band. If you don't know them, you may not know them because they weren't that big, but they were hugely here. The band was called Typo Negative, right? And the singer's name is Pete Steele, and he sort of looked like me. We're both 6'5". At the time, we both had long, dark hair, and we lived close to each other, and I was actually friends with him. I wouldn't say like great friends, but we were friends. Like, we'd see each other and say hello. We'd pass each other all the time and had each other's phone numbers or whatnot. But he came to do the show one day, and he was definitely on some sort of substance that he shouldn't have been on. And he was acting a little weird. And our interview was getting confrontational. And he's my height, but he's a big guy, big muscular guy. And in the middle of the interview, he stands up and says, do you want to fight me? And throws his headphones at my head. And I was like, well, first of all, he'll kick my ass. I'm not a fighter, right? So what do? There was a bunch of fans that showed up in the parking lot, and I just said to him, do you think your fans want to see you do this? And he like had a moment of like realization, and he started to like cry on the show and like apologize. It was one of the most bizarre moments of my radio career, and unfortunately, it didn't get recorded, and I have no history of it other than the people in the room.
Well, and that's why I do video calls.
Yeah, well, now we're talking 20 years ago. It wasn't easy to record back then.
Yeah. So this is why. This is why in the future I'm gonna do.
If I start crying, Jam Man, you want to have it on videotape.
Yeah. I have some people on my show that have a lot of people on my show that have been thrown off because of my age. But I do win over that. Like some people like actually act and a little moody with me because of my age, and they think.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of people actually get a little mean to me sometimes.
Really? I think it's so cool that you're at 10 years old or so into rock and roll. What is better than that? That's crazy. Whoever would get mad at that, what an idiot.
They think that I'm going to talk about like puppies or something.
Oh, well, I'll talk about puppies if you want.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about puppies now. What you said about that X-Men, let's talk about puppies. So what is your favorite kind of dog?
I would say, let me think about that. Probably pit bulls or Chinese crested. Because Chinese crested are the hairless ones. They're hilarious looking to me. And pit bulls, I think they get a bad rap because they're so strong, but they're actually very sweet.
Well, it's actually because of the owners, because they train them. They train them.
But they're actually like, they were bred because of their love of humans, is what pit bulls were used for, because they protect humans over other animals.
I got Boston's, and let's just say, I guess I got lucky and I got a pit bull mix because, well, he's not really a pit bull, but like, he will bite me, even though I'm not the one doing anything. When I'm wrestling with my dad or my grandfather.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, he's just like, he's the one, he would bite anyone. He doesn't, he just like, I love you all. I don't know who to bite. Should I bite you? How about the other guy in the corner? How about both of you? You know what? How about the two deal?
Let me ask you this, because you started going to concerts at such a young age. Do you remember the first concert you actually remember? Like your brain was already forming memories that you're like, oh yeah, I remember that show. Not from a picture you've seen of you, but something you actually remember going to.
I actually, yeah, it's not a picture, but there's a picture, and I remember going to the show. I just forgot the guy, but I do remember going to the show, and I remember a lot of moments that and I think I was like 2. I have very good memory.
Mm-hmm.
We went to this thing when I was like 2, and I still remember that. I have I'm an elephant, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, but yes, one of my concerts, it was like I was like a toddler age. I forgot, but I remember I was like on my papa's shoulders. I was on his shoulders, and that's what I remember. I don't know who we went to.
Was your father has always been a concert photographer, or he just is a hobby?
He did this for 10 years or 20.
10. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's a really good picture of Manson, I'll tell you that. I like that picture.
Thank you. Yeah. And this
I'll
was
tell you a crazy story. Manson's ex-girlfriend from years ago is my ex-girlfriend. We both dated the same girl, about a year apart.
She better hope you don't cancel her. She's going to say something about you.
Yeah, no. She's not one of the ones saying anything, that's for sure.
Okay, you're lucky. You're lucky. Some people are just not good at speaking sometimes when I'm in these interviews and give like one-word answers. What do you do in that situation? That's
funny. It's a funny thing you should ask. So that is a reason why I very often have a co-host. If I have a co-host and the guest is a dud, I can play off my co-host, right? If I'm alone, I have to fill the time by myself, which is harder to do. But if I have a co-host, I can shoot it over to the co-host, and they and I will back and forth. And then if the guest doesn't want to get involved, the guest doesn't get involved. So that's what happens to me. It's what I made that conscious choice to always have a co-host. You are more daring than I because you don't have a co-host. I have someone to feed off of in case it goes awry.
Hey, can I be the co-host, man?
Next time we have a big rock guest, I'll bring you in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Oh, my God, thanks. Has there been bands that you were like, don't have them back? Like, just.
Well, so the weird thing is, like, I won't bring a band back on just to bring them on. If they have a new album, If they very rarely, like I want them to have something new to talk about, you know, unless they become friends. Like there's a band called Living Color that I became very good friends with. So the singer probably has been on the show 6 or 7 times because I just enjoy him as a person. So we'll talk. And we bring bands back on when a new album comes out, like Blacktop Mojo's been on 3 or 4 times. But I would say as long as they have something new that they're getting into, I have no problem bringing them back on.
Who was your favorite guest?
It's a hard question. That's a hard question to answer. So different guests. There's a word, I'm going to teach you a new word that you may not know. The word is superlative, right? And what superlative means is your favorite, like your favorite color, your favorite food, your best of your best. The top is a superlative. And I'm very bad at picking favorites. I don't have a favorite band. I don't have a favorite food. I don't have a favorite color. So certain times you ask me this question, I'll give you a different answer. But recently, the 2 that I always use are so not rock and roll, but that's why I liked it, because they were on the show. Like, I can't believe that Mark Cuban was on the show. I can't believe that Neil deGrasse Tyson was on the show, and I can't believe that Ray Romano was on the show. You're not going to know who any of those people are, I don't think. But they were all big influences in my life. So to have these guys on that are all mega stars, like Mark Cuban is the host of Shark Tank. He's a billionaire. Neil deGrasse Tyson is an astrophysicist, and Ray Romano's a comedian. But they're huge guests, and the fact that they came on my show was amazing to me. It's like getting your holy grail guest. That's why I loved having it. When I think of bands, like when Gene Simmons was on from Kiss, that was amazing to me. When the singer of Alice in Chains came on, that was amazing to me. Like, so there are certain things that, I mean, I could probably name 100 of them, because so many. We've done now, I think, 350 episodes, and every one of them is great. Every one of them is great for their own reasons. So that answer will change every time.
I'm just getting jealous right now. I'm just getting really mad and jealous. Who was the worst?
I hate talking about people negatively. You know, what I will say is this, is that twice in the 3.5, 4 years the show's been on the, no, sorry, 5 years the show's been on the air, 6. After the fact, they asked us not to air it. And that bothered me, where they had a great time on the show, laughing and joking, and then realizing that they said something that they didn't want out there, or they felt they weren't portrayed the right way. And because it's not live, usually we're live, but these 2 were pre-recorded, they asked us not to air it. And that bothered me, because I haven't, like, if you asked me a question, although there's nothing I won't answer, right? But if you ask me a question that somehow you found the one question I don't want to answer, my answer would be, I don't want to answer that question, and we'll move on. But if somebody answers a question and then calls me the next day and says, I didn't want to answer that, that bothers me. Like, you could have just told me, you're an adult. Well, not you, but they were an adult. They could have said, hey, I don't feel like answering that question. And then if I keep pushing, then I'm the jerk. But if you don't tell me it's a problem, how am I supposed to know it's a problem? So I don't like throwing names under the bus, but these 2 episodes never aired, and it's 2 bands that felt they weren't fairly portrayed, so we didn't air it. In general, I don't like talking negative about people. I
don't like it too.
I also don't try, just as a word of advice for you also, don't try and do gotcha questions. You know, like, for instance, if Marilyn Manson came on your show, you shouldn't open with, so what's the deal with all these girls saying you're attacking them sexually? You know, that there's no way the interview's going to go well, you know?
I don't get into that kind of stuff, really.
Right.
I don't really get into that kind of stuff. I want to try to keep it, I just want to try to keep it friendly, you know?
Yeah, of course.
And I had Marilyn Manson's brother, Spider One. I had his brother, Rob Zombie's brother.
Rob Zombie's brother, right. Spider, yeah.
Yeah, Spider One. And one of my questions I was going to ask him was, what is it like being in the shadow? But I think I just closed.
I've had him on a few times, and I asked him, why hasn't your brother, which I think is a nicer way to say it, why hasn't your brother ever taken you out on tour? Which I think is strange, you know? And he said, do me a favor, next time you interview him, please ask him that question.
Wow, that's it's real craft to be able to do a proper interview, and not only to have to promote their project, you have to keep it interesting, look up facts and past stories, and put yourself in the position of a fan and ask them stuff you really want to know.
Right. I agree with all of that. I tell you what I do very often. My research that I do with bands, I like watching all the new interviews and stuff, but then I go back to the oldest interviews I can find from like the first year they became popular on YouTube. You could find anything. And it's interesting to see how a person's mind changed, how their aspect of life changed over the course of their career. And you can kind of see how they developed as an artist. So that usually gives me a very good indication of what the person is like and how much I can joke around with them, what I can say or do with them. And that is a great way. I recommend that to people all the time. When you're interviewing anybody that's been around for so long, like you have Seven Dust on the wall there, right? So they've been around for like, 12 years, maybe 15 years, maybe more at this point, 20 years. So you could find stuff on Lejean going back to 95 or something, and you could really see how they've changed. And that's a great way to get an indication of what they're like.
I remember my first interview. I do remember my first interview. So I remember it. I watched it. Well, I didn't really watch it again, but I remember the entire thing though.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just ask questions and not talk to you like how I'm doing it right now. You know how
Mm-hmm.
I would sometimes I would ask you and then I would continue talking about it a little bit. I would never do that. Just the thing, it was cool. And then I would keep asking questions and questions and questions.
Right. I think everybody goes through that. So the more you do it, the more comfortable you get doing it. I'll tell you a funny story. When my radio show first started, I couldn't get big interviews. We were nobodies. We were in the middle of nowhere, New Jersey. We had no listeners. So why would a big artist come on my show? For no reason. Why would they do it? They have no reason. I found, this is going back 1999, so we're talking a long time ago. I found a CD store that was selling old interview CDs of famous people. So it was like Axl Rose, John Bon Jovi, Ozzy Osbourne, Eddie Van Halen, and they're just interviews. So I bought all the CDs. I cut out the answers, and then I asked the question on my show and made it like they were there when they weren't there. So I was talking to a CD recording of Ozzy Osbourne in 1999 and pretended he was in my studio when he never was. Did you follow that?
Yeah, I'm just processing.
I was breaking the law, I feel, probably.
Yeah. Breaking the law, bro. Come on now.
We just had Rob Halford on not that long ago from Judas Priest.
So what made you want to jump from the tour bus onto the radio over to your podcast?
The environment. Radio doesn't matter anymore. When I was doing radio, there was no real internet. There was no, web series, YouTube, podcasting. And over the years of doing radio, even though we were on more and more stations, people cared less and less because radio doesn't matter. Your generation, when's the last time you turned on a radio as opposed to Spotify or YouTube or a podcast? Nobody was listening anymore. So I knew I had to change. And so it was like 7 years ago when I made that decision, I'm going to start figuring out how to transfer out of radio and get into podcasting.
In your early years, did you have to do the morning zoo thing and make up some cringy characters and just talk about annoying stuff and try to be wacky for your station manager?
I was offered a morning radio show in, I'm going to say probably 2003. I was offered a morning radio show, but the money was terrible. So I never did it. I never got into morning radio. I never did that. We never had characters. People told me in the beginning, why would you use your name Ralph? It's a horrible name. There's nothing cool about the name Ralph. I'm like, but it's my name. So I've always kept the name Ralph, and it's not a very radio-friendly name or a podcast-friendly name. But no, I fortunately avoided wacky morning radio.
What are some of your worst memories of that? What are some of your
of radio?
Yes.
In general? So I would say it's actually funny because it's horrible, but it's also funny, which is we were fortunate where we would broadcast live from events all over the country, like the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, Paul Stanley performing live in Irving Plaza. We would perform live at these places where the show would be broadcasting live for the whole time. Every time we did that, it was a poop show where nothing worked right. The signal would cut out. Things would be falling. Things weren't working. They couldn't hear us. It was a mess. It felt like we were going to war every single time we did it, and I hated it. But then when it was done, I was always happy. It felt like we really accomplished something against all odds. I remember once when we were in the Sturgis Rally, which is the biggest motorcycle rally in the country. There's 1 million people there. It was 2 minutes before showtime, and nothing worked. So we had to call the station and say, look, we're not going to do it. Just play a rerun. We're here for no reason. We're going to have to give them their money back. And then literally right before the show started, like 30 seconds, we figured out what was wrong, and we dialed in the station, said, we're going to go live, we're going to go live. And we went on like literally with 5 seconds to spare. So those moments, while miserable, looking back on them, I look back on them fondly. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I guess.
Sometimes, I'll tell you this, sometimes the hardest moments in your life, when you look back on them, for some reason, you'll look back on them fondly.
That is true. That is true sometimes. I think I've experienced that sometimes. I'm in Buffalo. They just fired the entire morning zoo because one of the guys compared woman to toast. It seemed like they forgot they were on air. Has something ever like that happened to you where you forgot you were on air and then you accidentally said something?
Yeah, so this obviously with podcasting it's different because there's nothing you can say that is considered bad, but back in the radio show, I never cursed ever. But one time I had something in front of me that was like delicate that could easily break. Someone gave me a gift that was sitting there, and one of my interns came over and almost knocked it over. And I said, and I apologize to your family, I'm going to curse right now, because I said, what the fuck are you doing? Like I screamed it out on the air because he was going to break it. And I said that live on the air, and that was the only time I ever cursed I think I cursed twice. But that one was like because somebody else stuck their nose into my area and almost broke something very valuable to me. And I just blurted it out, and I got in trouble for that.
Yeah, I don't know if that ever happened to me, and I think it might happen to me in the future, and that's just gonna suck.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as long as you, like, I could turn it off. I think after I did radio for like 15 years, so after a while, I could turn off the cursing and turn off the inappropriateness when it needs to be done, and I could be ridiculous when I need to be ridiculous.
That's what I do. I don't swear at all because I'm too young.
Yeah, probably a good idea.
Yeah. But some people can swear on my show. It's okay, but I'm not like saying just like don't say it in every single thing.
Right. It just feels weird to curse to a 10-year-old. That's the only thing.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. It's the rock industry. Yeah. Who knows next time? It might be. All right. I don't know what I'm gonna say next. My head's going into other places.
But again, by the way, to go back to it. For me, having a co-host, very often, if I think like, oh my God, I'm going to say something that I shouldn't say, I'll throw it to my co-host, and he'll make cut the slack, pick up the slack when I'm not, if I wasn't sure what I was going to say. That happens a lot.
Oh, so that's why I need a co-host.
No, I don't think. Look, not everybody does it the same way. There's some shows that have 3 people. There's some that have 1. There's some that have 5. You just find what works for you. That a co-host is what worked for me. It doesn't mean it's the only way. Just like with podcasting, there's so many different ways to do it. I would tell people what works for me, but would never impose that, say, well, that's the only way to do it, because there's a million ways to do everything.
What do you think would work for me? Do you think I would need a co-host, or do you think...
No, I think the charm is who you are. You're a 10-year-old enthusiastic kid. That's amazing. You keep doing this.
Thank you.
Just get a better microphone.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Do you want me to get some of that sound barrier thing?
I think you should. I don't know. See, when you get a mic, it may not be as bad because those pictures might be helping. I would say that once you get the mic, I'll hear it and I'll let you know. But it's hard to say. Like I had to put up some because there's brick walls over here and stuff, so I needed to break it up. But it may not be bad. Just getting a mic might change everything. So start with that.
All right, when I'm gonna get the mic, and if it sounds echoey, just hit me up, and I'll put some sound barriers right down here.
I'll let you know. It's amazing how much a couple of these make a big difference.
Oh my God, yeah, I can already hear that. You sound like just a single thing. That's all.
Right, it's very clean. They call that a clean sound. I work hard on having a very clean sound.
I like clean sounds. So how did you hook up with Big Dre? How did you hook up with him?
So I host this rock festival every year. It's called the Shiprocked. It's about 10, 15 bands on a boat with like 5,000 or 6,000 fans, and Seven Dust has been on it a bunch of times. Machine Head's been on it. A bunch of bands have been on it. And they needed a comic. I knew him as a comic and suggested he come on as a comic, And then they ended up putting us both on a lot of events hosting together, and we just enjoyed each other's company. And he's the one that suggested we do a podcast together. And it took me a year to agree to it. The first year I thought I wasn't going to do it. And a year later, I told him we should do it.
Do you like having a co-host?
Love it. I think that it's, for me, as I said, I think it's essential for me. I've only done my show alone, I think 3 times in the 350 episodes alone, where I interviewed somebody by myself. And I don't love it. I like the comfort of knowing there's somebody else there. It's a crutch. I'm not going to lie. It's a crutch. You know, it definitely is. It's just, I like to know, like Big J, there is no funnier man on the planet. Big J is the funniest guy I've ever met in my life. So knowing that he's going to make it funny, whatever we're doing, he's going to make it funny, is a weight lifted off my shoulders.
Hey, I just want to give you this a tip, even though I'm asking you the tips. Just gonna let you know, be a funny guy. Be
of course.
funny, like, you know what I'm doing, and now I'm being jokey. Just be a funny guy. Put a little
easier said than done sometimes.
Yes, it actually fixes some things sometimes. If you're like gonna make something, just like do something that's funny and not like really ridiculous. Just do something that's funny. Like
I'll take it.
Yeah, thank you. Before a show, oh, you heard? Okay. Before a show, did the both of you do research and go over who wants to talk about what, or just whatever comes to mind?
I do all the research. Jay usually doesn't even know who's going to be on the show until he shows up. That's just, again, it goes back to what works for you. You know, Jay, because he's so funny, can rely on being funny, because he will always make whatever we're doing, he will make it funny. So I do the research because I feel, from my perspective, when you get a big band in the studio, when you get somebody, you know, that's achieved success, you want to show them that you put the work in. You're not just happy to take their name and tag it in the show. You want to show that you put in some effort and that you actually care that they came on. And in fact, today I did 2 interviews, and both bands at the end of the show said, I have to thank you, man. This was the best interview I've ever done. And it's because they felt valued. They felt that they were honored and respected. Where I think he said, in fact, the guy I just had is a band called Our Lady Peace. And he said, you'd be amazed how many people just hit the 3 talking points and don't listen to anything else. You're like, this was incredible. And it's just about putting in the effort. You want them to feel valued.
I really love that when they do say, like, thank you for doing this. This is like one of the best interviews. It really does, you know, put like a touch in my feelings.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing how much a little bit of accolade goes a long way when you put so much heart and soul into things.
I have to ask, am I one of your best interviews, or am I one of your...
I would say one of the top 3. How about that? I'll give you top 3.
What top 3? Am I first, second, 3? What?
I'll give you number 2. You're in my second place. There's one guy that was I was very honored to be on his show, so I'd put you in number 2.
Okay. Thank you, man. Number 2.
But you know what? Get a better microphone, have me back on. Maybe you kick him out of the top spot.
Hey, let's go. I'll get that microphone any day now. What is the biggest news a band has ever dropped on you?
The biggest news. It's funny. I thought you said nose, but biggest news. It's a good question. Let me think about that. The biggest news. Well, I've had bands premiere songs. I've had bands announce reunions. I've had bands announce breakups. So there's been a lot of them that have come up over the years that I don't think any one of them specifically stands out. There's been so many of them. I'd say a band that announced their reunion on my show was a big one. Oh, I know one that sticks out. The best one. The band Kiss. They had a guitarist in the 80s and 90s named Bruce Kulick, right? Phenomenal guitarist. This is like 15 years ago. Bruce got shot at a nightclub, and it was all over the news. It was in the press. Like, this is bad, like on the radio. Oh my God, Bruce Kulick was shot. He called in my show to talk about it, and that was amazing. That one, I would say, the fact that of all the places he could talk right after he got shot, and he called my show, that's a pretty amazing one.
Well, that's just amazing, man.
Yeah, and he was doped up because they put him on like morphine because he was in so much pain from getting shot. and he could he was like not even making a lot of sense, but he just wanted to tell his story. It was unbelievable. That was pretty wild.
Was he like,
yeah, exactly. We got like 1 out of every 3 words, and we cut it early because we didn't want him to like, embarrass himself. But we was like, man, thank you so much for calling in. And
we don't want to embarrass him. We don't want him to pass out, so he could have.
We might be liable. So yeah.
He's just snoring. Now tell me about the Gas Digital Network. You have some pretty famous people working for you.
Yeah, we did. We started it about 5 years ago. There's 22 shows on the network. We get millions of listeners a week. The rock side, besides my show, Jamie Josta from Hatebreed, the singer of Hatebreed, Rob Flynn, the singer of Machine Head, and then Jesse, the lead singer of Killswitch Engage. They all have shows on my network. We have a bunch of comedians that do shows, some political people that do shows, a wrestler, an MMA fighter. It's a little bit of everything, and it's grown way beyond what I thought it could be. When we started 5 years ago, we thought, imagine we get like 1,000 people to listen to this, and now we're getting millions every week. It's crazy.
How did you get all those shows involved with your company? How did you get
it's a give and take. Like some will come to us because they want a network, and some we go after. So like, I'll give you the example of Jamie Josta, the singer of Hatebreed. I was hosting a music cruise, and Hatebreed was on it, and I was listening to Jamie's podcast already. I liked it. So I just approached him and said, I don't know if you have a network. I don't know but we're starting the show. And then we just started talking about it. And a year later, he started on the network, which was great. And then some will know somebody like a comic and be like, oh, dude, you should have a podcast. That would be fun. And we'll set them up with one. So it's a mixture of them coming to us and us going out for people.
How many shows are on your network now?
Right now, it's 22. Yeah, I originally thought we'd never have more than 20, but 22 is right now where we are. And it's starting to get a little unwieldy with so many different shows that you start to lose sight of. Like some, I think, feel they're being undervalued because my brain can't handle all 22 of them. So I think this is the maximum we're going to do.
So guys like Jamie Josta and Rob Flynn both pretty much are doing what you're talking to, bands and stuff. But do you have first dibs on guests?
Everybody gets their own guests. Like they don't. Once in a while, Jamie and I will share. Like if I book somebody that I think he would like, I'll send him an email and he'll do the same with me. But everybody books their own guests. We would never, at Gas Digital, we'd never tell anybody who to book. And if they want, some shows ask for help and I'll help them. But generally, the shows are autonomous. They get to do what they want on their own. I would never tell anybody what to do.
What I mean is, for an example, last week, Mars Rizzo left Soulfly, and that was big news, and a lot of people wanted to talk to him right away. And I was one of the first interviews.
That's
lucky
great.
Boy, right?
Absolutely.
Lucky dog. And
that's cool.
Yeah, thank you. In a situation like that, can you say that the guest has to go on your show first?
I would never say that to anybody. No, I say if they came to me, I would do it. But I would never, ever, cherry pick a guest over somebody else. And Jamie, look, his show is phenomenal. So is Rob's and so is Jesse's. But we seldom, like I've seen many times where we had the same guest on in the same week, because someone's going around doing press. So they do his show. They might do 2 or 3 shows. I have no problem with that. To me, it's all about getting the promotion out there for the band. So do every show. And I don't care. To me, I think just like with you, everybody's going to ask different questions. Everybody's going to have a different take. So there's no problem with, double dipping, so to speak.
Now I know you know a lot about the industry and musicians, so I want your opinion on a few things.
Sure.
Do you think there is a chance that Marilyn Manson can ever get his career back?
You know what's funny? As I said, I wouldn't say I was friendly with him, but I kind of knew him through my ex. And to me, there's one main thing a lead singer needs to do, and it's stay thin. Stay thin. And he's not doing that. I think that the sexual allegations are going to go away because people have short-term memories, and I think that won't be a problem. I think his last album was decent, pretty good, but I think because he looks not as good as he used to, if he got into shape, I think people would respect him more. I hate to say how superficial that sounds, but you want your lead singers to look cool. That's why Vince Neil from Motley Crue just lost a ton of weight, because people were making fun of him. You know, that's why Axl Rose has stayed in good shape. That's why Dave Windorf stays in good shape. That's why Lejeune is in great shape. I think that you want your lead singers to look cool, and he doesn't look cool right now. I think if he looked great, people would forgive a lot of it.
Do we have to get off soon because you got to stream?
Yeah, I have my show, so I have to leave in about 5 minutes.
Okay, give me a second then. Sorry.
No worries. I appreciate you asking.
All right. Okay, I'm just gonna. All right, we just want to hear. Okay.
No worries.
All right.
Yeah, today's a show day for me, so that's why also.
Can you do 2 pages or no? You know
yeah,
what?
That's fine. That's fine.
2 pages. Okay. If it made him a buck, would that show what was he on? Was like there was always the Money Man? Oh, sorry. I just got a little mixed up. All right.
That's okay.
All right. I think he needs to get in front of it. Steel Panther needs to replace Lexi. Dave can join up with them, and the whole incident can be a part of making jokes and moving past.
Are you saying Manson should join Steel Panther?
No, David Ellison.
Oh, David Ellison. Oh, yeah. So actually, I'm friends with David, you know, and I actually texted him when it happened and said, dude, I'm really sorry you're being treated like this. I think he got treated unfairly. He didn't do anything illegal. He just did something that might be considered morally objectionable. I think that Dave Mustaine overreacted because he's gotten more religious in his old age. But I think you're right. Him joining Steel Panther would be the coolest thing in the world.
Now, what do you think about all these bands going on tour and getting COVID?
I mean, I'm taking it seriously. I stay home. I got vaccinated. I think if we all just do what we're told in terms of health and wellness, we would be a lot better off. And I think it looks like, for the most part, by next year, things should feel pretty normal. I hope.
It's pretty crazy. Every day you see another tour canceled. Yeah,
I mean, I thought we jumped the gun too early. When I heard that summer tours were coming back, I'm like, that's nuts. And then, you know, Jonathan Davis just got it, so that tour got canceled. And Limp Bizkit got it, and that canceled. And Buck Cherry got it, and they delayed it. So you had to expect this to happen. I am surprised that people didn't think it, but I understand the reason why I think they did it is it's a lot easier to book a date and then have to move it than to last minute try and book a date because we can go out. So I understand why they all did it, but yeah, it's going to be a rough next, few months for sure.
Well, almost Korn got canceled, but they just pushed them back for.
They're pushing back. Yeah, they're pushing everything back because Stained was supposed to come into my studio this week, and Aaron Lewis was supposed to come in, but I found out like 3 days ago that wasn't happening.
I heard some bands who are anti-mask say they would buy everyone at the show drinks so they wouldn't have to wear their mask.
I mean, look, I don't like to take political stances because...
I'm sorry for asking this question.
No, it's fine. I don't care. I'll just tell you why. Is that when you do, you're eliminating half your audience. So if half your audience are anti-vaxxers and you come out as anti-vax, you're going to lose that audience. Or if you know what I'm saying. So I try personally to ride the road in between. I understand. I feel at this point there's enough evidence that we all need to get vaccinated. But if some people don't want to, I'm not going to force them to. I can't force them to. But I think that you can't get mad that concerts are getting canceled and also not wearing a mask. It's one or the other. You got to do one or the other.
Who is the dream guest you would love to have on your show?
Axl Rose, for sure. James Hetfield, and Charlie Sheen, who you probably don't know, but he's an actor.
I think you just read my mind about the Axl Rose one. Did you just steal something out of my mind, bro? I didn't give you permission.
Maybe we could book him together. That'd be great.
Oh my God, I would love to do a tag team.
A tag team interview with Axl Rose. Why not? I've met every other member of Guns N' Roses, but not Axl.
Wow.
I've interviewed them all. I've interviewed Slasher multiple times. I've interviewed a bunch of them, but Duff and no, never Izzy. But Izzy Stradlin's been out of the band for way too long.
Did you ever have someone turn you down that you asked to be on your show?
Oh, I mean, all the time. I'd say that in this industry, you have to expect more no's than yeses. because that's just what it is. So I'm fine with no's. I'd prefer a no than no answer. You know, you ask people out, you don't hear back. So just a no makes me happy. It's like, all right, at least I know I can move on.
I still get that sometimes, but I also have a lot of people reach out and ask me to be on my show. Even people who said no to me in the past, which is pretty cool. And also a lot of famous people like you who interviewed like.
Well, I never said no, but just so we're clear, I never said no to you. But yeah, it was funny when I got a couple of very big bands on a year or two ago, and the picture with me and them before COVID when they were in studio, I took that picture and sent it to all the people that said no. And said, if it's good enough for this guy, it should be good enough for you. And then it was amazing how many people responded with, okay, I'll come on the show now.
Yeah, but you know what? Just sometimes it's because of my age, but when you get a little bit more fame, they all come back.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
No poop. Sorry, no poop.
It's okay. You're just limiting your passes here. You're eliminating your passes. You only got 2 more left, or maybe 3.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
What is next for you?
The goal is to keep building Gas Digital. I'd like to double our numbers within the next year. That's my main goal. I've been trying to branch out into also, like, we put out a couple of comedy specials. We're working on a scripted show for the network. So we're trying to branch out into other areas of entertainment. But right now, I really believe slow and steady. We've been building our subscriber base, building our listenership. Our studios are getting better every week. So I'm happy with the path we're on.
How do my followers start following you?
Very simple. Me personally, follow me everywhere at I am Ralph Sutton. I am Ralph Sutton. That's where you can follow me everywhere. My podcast, The SDR Show, just go to the SDRshow.com and all the links will be there for the whether you want to watch it on YouTube or listen to it. It's all over there. And then Gas Digital is gasdigitalnetwork.com.
And they can find about you and your podcasts and the ball and get all your cool merch.
All that cool stuff at I am Ralph Sutton, all social media, or IamRalphSutton.com.
Well, thank you for being on my show, man. I hope the next time we talk is at some of your amazing events that you're going to be doing.
Maybe it'll be with you and I interviewing Axel with you with a brand new microphone. Who knows?
Who knows, man? All right, here, video handshake.
There we go. Thank you so much, Jam Man.
I'm really disappointed because I wanted to keep talking to you.
I'm sorry, dude. I would love to. Maybe I'll come back on someday because I got to go do my show.
All right. I'll get my microphone and stuff like that. All right.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much.
Peace.
Keep it real. Peace.
Keep it real, man. Devil horns. Young generation.